Welcome to another IEEE Young Professional Seminar. This seminar is sponsored by Weekler Technology Society, and I am the representative for young professional at the society. And like you have already seen some of the seminars on 6G, 5G, UAV, and many other interesting topics, including V2X. Today we have another very interesting topic, and I think that is relevant to no matter what domain you are working with, as long as it is about research and innovation. I think today's topic is for you. And what it is about, I think you may have seen in the title. It is about patents and invention disclosures. And who would be the best guy to speak about it, who has written, I think, uncountable, I would say, because it's the number you may see in is 500 or 2000, but I think it takes years and it to take to develop this many patents. So we have our guest, Bengt Lindhoff, one of the top innovators from Sweden. He has worked in many different reputed companies like Ericsson, Huawei, Eon, and now he is the chief architect at one of the company called Beamwave. So what he has accomplished in these years, in last, let's say, 25 years, that he has around 500 granted US patents and over 1900 patents worldwide, which is extremely good figure. So without any wait, I would like to invite Bengt to the stream. Welcome, Bengt.
Yeah, thank you very much, Timur.
And it's a pleasure to have you here. I think, you can introduce yourself a little, and then we take over to your presentation.
Yeah, okay. I hope you have shared the screen now. So, okay, welcome to this seminar or webinar where I will talk about patents, innovations, inventions, and basically the how, what, and why about that. And I will start with just some short background about myself. You get quite some information from Timur. I have a background as an electrical engineer and a PhD some 25, 30 years ago from Lund in Sweden. Then I've been working for Ericsson, Huawei, mainly of the time, working with wireless communication research from all standards from 2G to 5G and also Bluetooth and Wi-Fi. And during that time, I have been involved in a lot of R&D and standardization, and by that a lot of new inventions and patents, and that become one of my specialties. So I have like 500 filed patents, and since each patent can be granted in several countries, it's like 1900, close to 2000. You can find me on some top lists on the persons with most granted patent, like the one I have to the right here about the granted EP patents. So what I will share to you today is a bit about my experience about patents and how to create patents or how to get into a mindset from to obtain new ideas that could be possible new and inventive, and by that patents. And before that, I will start just to give a brief background about what is a patent, since I guess that many of you are familiar with some basic ideas or basic grounds about knowledge about patent. But I will just go through it quite quickly, some overview, and after that I will also say something about why are patents important for the industry. I mean, there is a reason why companies, high tech or deep tech companies, which I have been working for, are very important that the employers protect their ideas with patents, and I will explain the reason for that to some extent. And then finally, which will be the major part, is the one that you might not see so much out if you are Googling out on the internet. It's how to create patents. I mean, how should you put yourself in a mindset to come up with ideas that could be novel and inventive, and what kind of work is needed in order to obtain a patent. And I will reveal my first four secrets about how to become a prolific inventor in this webinar. Okay, if we start with what is a patent? A patent is basically a contract between the inventor and the society. And the inventor, or more correctly, the assignee, the owner of the invention, gets monopoly right to the invention with a patent, but the society at the same time get a detailed description on the invention, on how to carry out the invention, which improves the technical development in the society. That is, so to say, the mindset behind that you have come up with something, you protect it with a patent, you get a monopoly right to utilize this, and then at the same time you educate the society about your new findings, so that it can improve the technical development in the future. A patent is a monopoly right that is limited in time, which is typically 20 years. It's also important to understand that patent is limited geographically. So typically to a jurisdiction, a country like US, Sweden, China, Germany. So if you have a granted patent, that is in a single country. But you can of course have a patent that is granted in several countries. But a patent is granted in respective country, basically. And in order to get a granted patent, one need to fulfill four requirements. The first one is novelty. That means that the idea should be new with respect to what is known out in prior art, known techniques. The next step is that it should involve an inventive step. And inventive step basically means that it should not be obvious. If you take all prior art, it should not be obvious for the ordinary skilled person to obtain your invention. So there should need to be some new cleverness, basically. Then it should have some industrial applicability. The invention should belong to a technical field. So in many jurisdictions, you can't, for instance, take a patent of a new business model. So it needs to be something technical. You need to solve a technical problem. And then finally, in order to get a granted patent, you also need to, in the patent application, the patent document, to disclose the invention in such a manner that the skilled person is capable of performing the invention. It's basically some kind of description on how should you carry out in order to do the invention without an undue amount of trial and error. So that you should describe it sufficiently well, basically. So if you have all these things, then you have the possibility to get a granted patent. Okay, what is a patent? If we look at the patent document, you can see it as some kind of technical report, including standard sections that you have in a technical report. You have some abstract. You have some technical field in which area this patent is related or belonging to. You have some background of the problem and also some prior art, if this has been solved in some way before. And then you have a summary of your invention. Then you have drawings, and then you have the what I have make bold here, the most important part, the detailed description of the inventions, the claims. This is, I would say, the large difference between a standard technical report and a patent. It is the claims which defines the scope of protection of the invention. And then finally, as I mentioned, the drawings. And I will focus on the claims, since that is the important part that might not be known to people that has not written any technical document. So what is the claims? That's, as I mentioned, that basically defined the scope of the protection of the invention. And the main claim, that is the first claim, you have typically a number of claims in a patent document. The main claim covers the widest scope of your inventions. And if you can see on the figure down to the left, if you say that the claim 1, the main claim, covers a certain scope, and then you have a number of dependent claims or sub-claims that describes or protects sub-part of the main claim. You can see it is in the example here that you have some claim number 2 that is covering a certain part of claim 1, and then claim 3 is a subset of claim 2, claim 4 a subset of claim 2, claim 5 a subset of the claim 4, and claim 6 is another subset of the main claim number 1. And what I say, original invention by the inventor, it's typically so that if you come up with a great solution on a technical problem, you might have a detailed solution on that. But you typically would like to cover a wider scope than your original idea. And therefore, together with the patent attorney, I will come back to that later, we try to widen the scope of the patent somewhat so that you have a wider protection, basically. Just to take an example, I have one here to the right. That is actually my first patent. I filed in October 98. And that then it was granted August 2000 in US. And in this case, since it's more than 20 years, so this patent is not valid, or I mean, it's free to use it for all now. But what this was about a transmitter where you transmit linear modulation, which could be QPSK, QAM, or OFDM, something that you represent in Cartesian coordinates, I and Q, basically. But the transmitter itself is based on polar modulation. That means that it represents the complex valued coordinates in polar coordinates, the amplitude and phase. And if you do that, and it turns out that you get some distortions of the signals, and you need to compensate for this distortion in some way. And the first claim in this case say that you have an apparatus, that's the transmitter, that can generate a linear modulated signal in a polar modulation system. And it's comprised of a signal processing that takes the linear modulated signal and you separate it into a phase component and an amplitude component. And then you have a phase modulator that modulates the radio carrier signal with a phase component. And here the problem is the phase component creates some kind of phase distortion. And then you come to the so-called inventive part here, is that you have a compensator that's modify the amplitude component by compensating for the phase distortion created by the phase modulator. So the distortion introduced in the phase, you try to compensate by modifying the amplitude component. And then you have an amplitude modulator that modulates the phase modulated signal with this modified amplitude component. This is the main claim. You can compare to this largest circle here for claim number 1. What was, if you now look into the sub-claims, then we say that we have an apparatus according to number 1. And then we describe this compensator that's compensating for the phases in a more detailed way. We say that this compensator is a compensation function. So here we have limited the scope, since I mean you don't need to have the compensator could be anything. It don't necessarily need to be a compensation function, but it could be. So this one is more narrow than the main claim. And then claim number 3, here we say that the compensator basically delays the amplitude component by an amount of time equal to the delay experienced in the phase modulator. So here a lot of the phase distortion is more or less a delay, and then you delay the amplitude component. So this one is also a subset of more detailed description of claim number 1. So this was just an example on how you define the invention and how you have a wide protection, and in case that will fail towards novel and inventive step, you have fallback claims that narrows down the scope of the patent. I will come back to this a bit later on how to think when you come to reviewing patent claims if you have a patent together with them. Yeah, I will come back to that later. Other things that's good to know about patent is that if you have a patent on something, that doesn't necessarily mean that you are free to use the invention. It could be so that you get an invention in an improvement of a prior invention that has a valid patent. And the improved invention can in that case only be used if the patent holder of the original invention gives permission, which they may refuse. You can think of it as a simple example to say that someone has invented a car and then they steer the car with buttons. So you have a button pushing on the left and you go to the left side, and then a button pushing on the right. So if you push that, you go to the right side. But then say that you invented that instead of having buttons, you have the car but with a steering wheel instead. I mean, this might be a silly example, but just to show what I mean. And that could be novel and inventive if no one have understand that you can use a steering wheel instead. But if you say that the patent includes the entire car plus the steering wheel, you are not necessarily allowed to use your invention as long as the one that has the main car patent has allowed you to use that. So the patent only protects your idea so that no one else can use it without your permission. And then the next one, a granted patent does not necessarily mean that it is valid. It could be. So, I mean, when you got a granted patent, the patent examiners at the patent office have assessed it towards known prior art, did some search on prior art and found that this is novel and inventive, and then you get a granted patent. But if someone else know that, but there is prior art out there somewhere, and you can find it and you can prove it, you can take the patent to the court and make the patent invalid if you have proof of that there is actually prior art out there. So if you have a granted patent, it can be invalid if someone's taking it to the court. Okay, that was a very short overview of patents. But why are patents important for the industry? We take the smartphone business as an example, where I've been working for many years. Looking at the smartphone market 2020, it was 1.2 billion smartphones. It was revenues of $360 billion. The operator revenues was $1,200 billion. And just the US market itself, it was 300 billion for AT&T and Verizon in total. So, I mean, there's a huge amount of money here. And companies working in this area really need to invest money in R&D to stay competitive in the business. I mean, no one will have a bad smartphone. You need to have a even better smartphone next time you buy one, and therefore all the engineers need to find out even improve the performance or form factor or gadgets or whatever even more, and that you need then you need to spend money on the R&D, and in order to that no one else just can steal your idea, you protect it by patent, and by that at least make it illegal to just steal the idea from you. So, I mean, protecting invention with patent are a way to get money in return on invested R&D. I mean, you have invested in research and development, and you will need to have paid for it so that no one just can take your R&D and copy it and sell a product with what you have been investing money in. So patent is an asset. It's not a cost. It's important to understand that. And it depends on what kind of company you are. It has different value. if you, as I mentioned, the patent will protect your invention from others. So if you are a small startup, for instance, and you have a good deep tech idea and you are protected with patent, then you can show for the venture capitalists that you're really serious about this idea, and make sure that no one else can just steal it. So you protect it by patent, and that could be one way to get the venture capital, for instance. If you're a larger company operating in an area, if you have a strong patent portfolio, you don't need to pay royalties to other companies in the area. That could be 5 to 10% of the revenues. That means that if you start now today to do your own smartphone and you don't have any patents, and you think that the high-end smartphone you can sell for $1,000, you need for sure of this $1,000, $100 you need to give to other companies in the market that has all the patents, since you will most likely infringe on many of them. So having a large patent portfolio, you can do cross-licensing with other in the same area, and by that avoid paying royalties. That is what's called the defense use of the patent portfolio. And then you have also, if you have a very strong portfolio, then you can other persons or other companies doing products in the area where you have patents, most likely they will infringe or need your patents to do that product, and then you can get this 5 to 10% revenues in royalty from them. And in that case, the patent can be used in an offensive way, meaning that you really generate a revenue stream, not just protecting from giving. You have to pay someone else, but now you can get really money for your patents. So patent is business. That is important to understand. That is the reason why patents are important, and why large high-tech companies urge their R&D engineers to make innovation and protect it with patents. So short about that. So now we come to the more my expertise. It's how to create patents. We have seen what is a patent and why a patent is important. But how do you create patents? And I will go through a flow chart to show the way from an idea to grant a patent. And after that, I will answer 2 common questions I typically got from people that has not so much experience with patent. And then finally, I will take my 4 secrets on how to create patents. The flow chart from idea to granted patent. Say that you and your team members, we are thinking you are working for a larger company, doing something, solving a technical problem, and you get to come up with a great solution that improves something or something that you have not seen before, or see that this is a great solution. This could be something that could be a patent. So the first is you come up with an idea, of course, and then after that you write that in a document, in a technical document, typically called invention disclosure. It's a confidential document that describes your invention. I will come back more a bit about this invention disclosure drafting. Then after that, there should be some kind of internal review of the idea first to see is it have it business relevance for the company, is it related to what you're working with, and of course, as long as you come within an R&D project, it's probably is so. And then there is also some kind of first initial check whether this could be novel and inventive, maybe by reviewing of some technical experts in house in the company, showing that I have not seen this before. So this could be something new. In case it's not something new, then they might decide to close the case. That's the 135 here. But we assume that this seems to be new, so it will go further to be a patent or file a patent. So the first step is then to do a patent draft. And that is typically done by a patent attorney, either in-house if you're working for a large company, or typically you hire a patent attorney from a patent attorney firm that's helped you to draft a patent application based on the invention disclosure and based on discussion together with the inventors. So the patent attorney does the formal patent application. Once that is drafted, it's filed. That means that the patent application is submitted to a patent office in one or more jurisdictions where the patent, if granted, should be valid. So if they have decided to file it in US and China, then you basically send it to the US patent office and the China patent office. And then from an inventor perspective, it will happen nothing for 6 to 12 months roughly. After that, you will receive a patent search response. That is where the patent examiner have assessed the invention to see whether it's novel and inventive. And here the inventor, if it come back, it could be novel and invented directly, but typically it is so that they say that the claimed invention have some prior art, so you can't get a granted patent. And in that case, you can, together with the patent attorney, respond to this search report, arguing for that the invention actually is new, novel and inventive. And maybe it might be so that you have to restrict your claims a bit. Maybe your wider scope in the main claim was too wide, and so that you touched upon some other prior art. You have to narrow it down. Maybe you go to one of the subclaims. And then, of course, there is always some kind of business value evaluation. Is the one that is this restricted or updated, amended claims still of business value? In not case, then we don't continue. If it is, then you send it back to the patent office, and then they do a new review. And this can happen a lot of time. It could take like 3 to 5 years before a patent is granted. So it is quite some time. And the steps 160, 170, 175, that could be iterated several times. And either it decided that it couldn't be a patent, or it could be a granted patent. So this is the basic steps, and I will go through some of them and some tips and tricks on you as an inventor, how you should support the patent attorneys to get a good patent. Okay, common questions about inventions. First, people say that, yeah, but it must be totally hopeless to get a new invention or a patent. You need to invent something that is as a new wheel to get something that is patent. But I would say that's not correct. A lot of the patents today are small improvements of existing technique, but the improvements is new and inventive. And it has some kind of future business value, meaning that someone's seen that we can make a business of this idea, and therefore we protect this by a patent. So it could be quite tiny details, as long as they are clever, new and inventive. And the next question, yeah, but I, as an average you, I can't do an invention. You need to be an Einstein. And that is not correct. I would say that everyone can be an inventor. And of course, if you are working for deep tech or high tech companies, many of you have high degrees like masters or PhD, that will help you in the knowledge in the area. But I would say this is not the main thing. The main thing is that you have deep knowledge of the subject you're working with, which you can have without any formal education, as long as you've been working in this area for a long time, and which is the most important, a passion for finding new solutions. So you really strive to find new solutions and come up with new ideas. And I will, in the next few slides, reveal some of the my secrets on how to find new solutions on technical problems. And the first one could seem obvious, and it is to some extent, is that you have to generate ideas. And I have the slogan, think yes, not no. That I would say, if you are working with some technical problem and you can come up with a new solution, you should take your idea seriously. That means that even if the idea seems simple, you think that it couldn't be new, but it really can be new. So you should think about that. No one, if you're working at the edge of the technology, it might be so that no one has thought about this before. So it could really be so that no one has worked with this stuff before. So it could be novel and inventive. And for instance, say that you have 3 to 5 years of experience in your area of expertise. And then you can think, how many people in the world have as long experience as you in your specific area. And you will see that in most, as long as you're working with R&D in high-tech companies, you will come up to, it will not be so many hundreds or thousand, or maybe 10,000, but it's say between 1,000 and 10,000. And then you can think of, if you were top 10,000 or top 10,000 in football players, they are quite good. And they are what you can call world class. And I would say you are then world class as well, since there is not so many people. I mean, there are some few thousand, but we are 7 billion or 8 billion people on Earth. So if you are one of 1,000, you are really world class. So you are world class. And that means, and we know that, and then we can understand that if you are world class, you can find new solutions. That could be novel and inventive and a patent. So the idea you come up with could really be new, novel, and inventive. All are not novel and inventive, of course, but you should think of that. If you come up with some new solution, think of that this could be a new patent. Not start to think, no, this couldn't be anything. So it's important to think yes, not no. The next part that might be even more important is that you need some kind of innovative climate, a team members or department or company that really would like people to think in new ways. Since inventing is a teamwork. So you not only need to be open-minded for your own idea. I mean, you need to be positive on your own idea that could be novel and inventive and hence a patent, but also on others' ideas, some of your team members' ideas. So you need to be open-minded for that as well. And I have a simple example here, an exercise. Which of the answers by the person B below will generate inventions? We have two persons, A and B, at some company meets at the coffee machine. And A say, I have a brilliant idea. And person A explains the idea for person B. And person B, the first one, say, oh, that was a great idea. This seems to be new. And I have some proposal on how to improve your idea even further. Let us go and discuss further. The other person B say, no, this can't be new. Go back to your office. You can think it's easy to understand which of these two that has a potential to create inventions. It's, of course, number one. So, important takeaway here is, once you discuss with another person, team member, think about how to improve that person's first idea, not how to kill the person's idea. If you start to be this open-minded and try to iterate and improve, you will for sure come up with much more and be involved and co-invented to much more inventions. It's very important. Okay, but how to come up with new ideas? It seems easy to say, but how should I do that? Yeah, it heavily depends on the topic you are working on. But I can give you some general approaches here. One that I think is very productive is that for each new task or project you are working with, determine at least one new invention or at least one new idea. That means that you forced yourself to create new solutions. That always think that is the current solution. Say that you have solved something in one technology node, and then there is a requirement to migrate it to some other technology node, the algorithm or something. Then you can just take the old one and just say, okay, we need to migrate it to this new technology node, and you don't do anything more than just migrate it. But you can also think that, okay, now the technology has come a bit further. Maybe it's possible to do something that's even better than we had before. Can we do that? Can we do something new here? Could we do something better? So each time you start a new project, has a personal goal to come up with a new solution on at least one thing in this project before the end of the project. That is one way to really force oneself to think in new ways. The next is invent everywhere. That means that you should not only invent at work, you can invent wherever. It could be like in cooking or in if you have some other hobbies. I mean, I was a basketball coach for teenage girls some years ago, and I always tried to force myself to find out new exercises on the practice, so that first my brain continue to have this inventing step in my brain, and also to get some kind of variations for the girls. So I mean, try to invent, find new things, new ways to do things outside the work as well. Another thing is check solutions to problems in other technical topics. And here you can think of if you do mathematical modeling of your specific topic you are working with, and you have some mathematical models, you will see that many of the mathematical models are similar for different kind of topics. That means that you can reuse some technology from a topic A in a topic B. From a mathematical perspective, you can use the same model, but the parameters mean something else. You can say the same thing with solutions. Maybe you can see how they have solved something in another topic and try to apply it to your own topic. So say, look outside your own box. Since applying a solution methodology from a topic A to a topic B, if no one has done that on topic B, that can be inventive as well. So that means that look outside your own work environment and see, have someone solved a similar problem that I can reuse the ideas here, and see maybe we can improve something in this area as well. And then finally, share and discuss your ideas with your colleagues, since one plus one mind is or brain is more than two. That is things to come up with new ideas. Okay, number 3, it's do the hard work. On the figure here, I have Thomas Alva Edison, one of the most famous prolific inventors. He had 1,084 US patents. He actually filed at least one patent during 60 consecutive years. And in order to me to succeed at that, I need to become 90 years old. So see if I can have that as a target as well. But he said that genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. I would say it's the same with inventing. That you come up with a good idea that could take quite fast sometimes, but you need to do the hard work before you get it as a granted patent. You need to write it on paper and file it as a patent application. So you have to do the invention disclosure, you have to spend time reviewing the patent application, and then you need to spend time helping the patent attorney with the response of the search report in order to get the patent. So it's basically hard work that is important as well. Nothing is coming from free here. Okay, so just to give some short about some hard work. Okay, how to write an invention disclosure. I come up with a good idea, good solution to a technical problem. How should I do? Start with the figures, I would say. So start with that. Try to explain your ideas in flowcharts or block diagrams. Try to highlight the inventive parts. And thinking here is more that if you go to the patent, you need to describe your idea in a good way so that the patent attorney can do a good patent application. So if you start with the figures, then you have first shown by yourself what is really the inventive part, and it will be easy for the patent attorney to write a good patent application. So start with the figures, highlight the inventive parts. The next step is try to capture the main idea in what I call some pseudo claims. So you don't need to write it in this claim wording that could be quite strange compared to standard writing. But try to capture the inventive parts in some few sentences. Try to describe it. Since then, just to get, okay, I have found this, and then I should do X and Y and compare to Z, and then we get something. So try to compile it in some small few sentences. After that, then you start to write the more detailed description on how to carry out the idea, what it could be, some algorithm or some procedure or whatever. And then you should also think about, maybe there are several solutions to it. So try to say all. if we go back to the patent example I have from the beginning with this compensator function, you say that you have some compensation, and think, okay, it could be a compensator function, the compensation function, it could be a time delay, it could be something else. So try to explain different ways to different solutions to the problem. So find the more you find, the better it is, since then you get a wider scope of protection, possibility to get a wider scope of protection of the patent. And then after that, you write some small background and prior art. That don't need to be too long, but it should be some relevant, mainly if you know some prior art. I mean, how they have solved the problem before, and the disadvantages with the prior art solution. Many times people start to write a long background and mix it together with the invention. It's hard to understand what is the invention and what is background for a person that is not as expert in the area as you are. So important, try to follow this step from 1 to 4 in that order. That will be much easier for the patent attorney to understand the idea and write a good patent application. Okay, now you have sent it to the patent attorney, and he has discussed with you, and then you're back the first patent application. And if you have not seen a patent application first time, you will first think this is not my invention. It's written in a typical other language compared to what you are used to. But it's since you need to write it in a formal way, especially the claim part. So it takes some time to understand or understand the way of writing a patent. But what you should do is don't focus so much about the background. Make sure that the description written by the patent attorney covers all the possible solutions. As I mentioned, if you have several different ways to solve the problem, make sure that everyone is described in the detailed descriptions. And as I mentioned before, the main claim could be broader than the core idea, and it could be so that the patent attorney have tried to even broaden the idea even more than you have thought about. But make sure that you have the core idea covered in a subclaim if it turns out that this widening is too broad, so there could be some prior art there. So make sure that the core idea is in some subclaims. Next is what I could say, no unnecessary word in the claims. It might be hard to understand what I mean with that first time you write a patent, but you will see 5 years later or 10 years later when the patent is granted and might come up to litigation or something like that. There might be some words making it much less valuable. You should not use unnecessary words since that could limit the scope of the invention. And this is mainly in the main claim. Just an example, say that you have some invention that you compare a measurement towards a threshold, and the threshold, based on the outcome of the comparison, you do something. This is some part of the invention. If you say that in the claim that you compare the measurement towards a threshold, and if the measurement is below the threshold, then you do something. It might be so that a person that would like to use your invention just put some minus sign on things, and then it will be that the measurement will be above the threshold, and then you do it. And then it might be so that they can argue that they are not doing the same invention, so they don't infringe on your invention. It's better to say that whether the measurement pass a threshold. I mean, this is just an example. So, and this could be hard to know. The patent attorney should be expert in this, but you should have it in your mind. And the more patents you do, the more you learn about this. And finally, don't leave the claims just to the patent attorney, since you think this seems complicated text. But it is so that you, as an inventor, are the expert, and the patent attorney, they are doing as good as possible. But they might have misunderstood something, so you need reader to check the claims. And again, first claim, first patent, it might be hard. Number 10 is easier. Number 100, then you really can it. So remember, need to spend time on checking the claims. The fourth one, this is what I call never trust an office action. And what do I mean with that? Yes, it is that, say that you have written together with a patent attorney the patent application, it has been filed, and then 1 year after the filing, you receive the search report from the patent office. And that's typically say that the idea is neither new nor inventive. And then many people start to be disappointed that, okay, there was some prior art, so unfortunately I couldn't get the patent. But then I would say it's now the fun work starts, since you should not be afraid to argue for your ideas. You should not give up at this stage. You should have the instinct that the examiner is wrong. And I have a checklist about how what I mean with that. You should fight for your invention. Nothing is obvious. They typically say that if you combine prior art document A with the prior art document B, the combination, and it's obvious to come up with your invention. So therefore it could not be involve an inventive step. Some checklists. The first is, have the examiner misinterpreted your invention? It might be so that the examiner has not totally understand your invention, and maybe have done some prior art shows based on some wording you have had in the claims and in the text, and then come up with two documents that, if you just read the wordings but interpret it in a different way, say that, yeah, the combination that describes your invention. But you need to check, is it so that this document A and B, in the case that they are two documents that in combination is prior art. It might be a single document, it might be three as well. You need to check these documents to see, does they really make sense to my invention? It might be so that they have misinterpreted your invention, and by that interpreted that as that there is prior art. And so that you need to check. It might be so that this misinterpretation could be that, in the sense that you have widened, or the patent attorney have widened the main claim too much. So it might be so that it's infringed on prior art. So it's novel and it's not novel and inventive as the claim is described. But then make sure that is it some of the subclaims that may be inventive? Maybe it is so that in the search report that some of the subclaims are inventive as such. It might be so that they say that they are not inventive, not neither inventive. But maybe it might be so that in that case it's easier to argue for some of the subclaims, since if you combine this document A and B, then it will not describe your subclaim. So sometimes one need to narrow down the scope of the claims to get it, have some good arguments in the argument that the idea you have is still novel and inventive. And it's also important to know that the examiner is a human, and even if they do after they have some objective decision function, which is called that the posita man, the person skilled in the art, that is someone that has knowledge in the area, but the only that person can do is that they can take all the prior art document and combine the prior art document and don't do anything more. If you need to do anything more, then it's defined as inventive step. But if you just combine some 2 or 3 prior art document, then it's not inventive step. And this is, of course, a subjective decision somewhere. Even if there is some kind of formal rules you should follow, there is, at the end of the day, a human that has taken a decision that this is not novel and inventive. And I think we'll take that much. We think this as a negotiation, that you have sent in a patent and ask for a grant, and then say, no, this is not novel and inventive. And then you have to argue for your ideas and come to argument that the prior art document you don't have, that they're describing something else. So we are still having something that is novel and inventive. You can see it as you go, some negotiation basically, that sometimes you need to narrow it down. So you say that, okay, we accept that claim number 1 is not inventive, but claim 2 is inventive since, and then you have your argument. And you send it again into the patent examiner, and then it might find some new documents in a new search, still claiming that the new claim, amended claim is still not new. Then you need to do this argument again. But see it as an argumentation, give and take. Since if you always say that the examiner is totally wrong and you will not change anything, then it's quite unlikely that you will succeed. You can do it maybe the first time, but if you still have good arguments for that you have to adapt or amend the claims, you might need to do it in order to get it granted. So see it as a negotiation, similar to if you are at a bazaar and get the best price of a thing that you would like to buy. And you will end up, if you start to lower you start with only, they will have $10 for this, but you only want to pay $1, and then after some negotiation you end up with that it's okay to pay $5. You can think this is the same kind of procedure, I would say. And as mentioned, it is several iterations with the patent office, so it can take years before the patent to be granted. So you as an R&D engineer, you will once every year be interrupted or something like that with the old patents, and you need to come up with new arguments in the argumentation to get the granted patent. But hopefully you will, by not giving up too early, you have the possibility to end up with a granted patent. So, to summary the presentation, I have went through the how, what, and why of patent and inventions. And I started to say some short about the what is a patent. And patent gives you a monopoly right for an invention in a specific jurisdiction, a specific country, and it's valid for 20 years. The next was, why is patent important? Patent is business. Patent is an asset for a company. It's not a cost. That means that you can get money in return, either by protecting, don't need to pay someone else if you have some patents, or if you have a lot of patents and a good patent portfolio, you can earn money by receiving royalties from other companies. And then finally, I went through how to create patents, some of my secrets. The first one, generate ideas. That means that you should be open-minded for your own ideas and think yes instead of no when you come up with a new idea. It could be a patent or invention that could be novel and inventive. Start with thinking about that. The next one is that inventing is a teamwork. That means that you need to be open-minded for others' ideas. And that means also the important thing that 1 + 1, 2 brains are two persons' brains are much more than 2. So it's important. The more you discuss, the better the inventions would be. The next one is do the hard work. You need to work a lot. It's similar to if you are skilled in sports, you need to do a lot of practice in order to be world class in sports. The same here, you need to do hard work. You need to practice a lot by doing patents and doing the work to be a prolific inventor. And then finally, fight for your inventions. You need to argue that the invention is novel and inventive in the discussions with the patent examiner and patent office. Think about that the patent examiner is wrong. So you need to have good argument to argue that the patent examiner is wrong. Nothing is obvious. Yes, that was what I was planned to say today. More information you can find. I have a blog, opfinnan.com. Opfinnan, that is a Swedish nickname for inventor. I have a blog there. It has not been updated in a while, but there you can find some blog posts more related to this. And you can also follow me and follow me or send a connection invitation on LinkedIn. Where I recently have a short crash course with 12 episodes, basically summarizing this similar to what I presented here today. And it will also most likely come more information in the future. So please follow me there. Yes, thank you all.
Yeah, thank you, Bengt. It was pleasure to listen to you and yeah, learn from you once again. I
Mm.
can tell the viewers that I am honored that my first patent is with Banked and my more than half are with Banked. So that's an honor and pleasure. And I think I learned the basics from Banked. Well, I think today I learned even more, several new things that I was not aware of. And we have a few questions
Yep.
from the audience.
Yes.
So, for example, this is the first one.
Yep.
Could we file a patent for multiple offices at the same time?
Yes, there is. Here you can do it in several different ways. You can file it in multiple jurisdiction or countries at the same time. There is also another way that you file what is called a PCT application. That means that that is valid for several countries, and then you have a certain time, 30 months, before you have to do a final decision on which countries you will eventually go further with. So in that case, maybe it might be so that the patent you have, you don't know exactly how valuable it is, and then you can go in that way, and then you have 30 months and receive some search report and seen, so to say, how the likelihood to get a granted patent or a granted good patent. So there is different strategies here exactly on how you should go and in which countries you should file a patent. And this is things that the patent attorneys and also the IP strategists or at a company are expert. It heavily depends on your company's patent strategy. Where are you selling your products? Where are you producing your products, and things like that. But there is possibility to file in multiple countries at the same time. But sometimes you can delay it up to 2.5 years before you take the final decision.
Yeah, and there was another question related to it, that
Yep.
would it impact the cost by filing it to multiple places?
Yeah, exact. They say that the cost, it heavily depends on it's different for different countries. But I have heard numbers like up to 100,000 euros a patent during its entire lifetime in a number of, say that you go in 10 to 20 countries with a patent, then the total cost could be up to 100,000 euros. And if you just look at number 100,000 euros, it's like $120,000 or something like that. It might seem much, but again, think that if you have a highly valuable patent, it could be worth billions of dollar or at least several millions of dollar. So in that case, it's just a small amount of money. But it depends. If you the more countries you're fighting it, the higher the cost is.
Right. And then another question we have is, wouldn't you also need to show that your idea works? I mean, show some simulation, test bed results, etc.
Yes, you need to show that you can carry out the invention, but there is no need to I mean, you don't need to build a product and show that the product works. You should make it plausible in the description, and then it could be so that you can get a patent on things that is worse than what you can do today, but it is done in a novel and inventive way. So that doesn't mean that you can get a patent on thing that is not so good or work or very bad. I mean, but no one has done this before. But of course, in that case, it is probably no business value. But you don't need to do so sort of build a product and send it to the patent office. You just need to make it plausible that it's working.
Sounds good. Yeah, I think that was all from the questions, and I would like to thank Bank again on
Yeah,
behalf of IEEE VTS.
yeah.
And this lecture will be available to watch later. So if you think that it's valuable for your friends and other colleagues, so feel free to share it with them. And yeah, we see you soon. with another presenter. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ben.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Tibor.
Thank you. Bye.